You know, in the early days of this channel, when I don't know why I said that earlier, it's been like a year and a half, but when I first started this thing, a lot of people would ask me, you know, why are you starting this channel? Why did you start doing the YouTube thing? And I would always say that it was out of fear. You know, I was scared that I would have no place in the FGC, or before it was Call of Duty. Those are the videos that I used to make. I felt like I wouldn't have a place in the community if it weren't for content, because I don't know if I really have the skills and potential to get where I wanted to be as a player and as a competitor, to be very good at the game. But I was wrong. I was dead wrong, and I'm glad I was wrong. I'll be the first person to admit it. The only person telling you that you can't beat X, Y, and Z, and you can't be the best in the world or do any of the things that you dream of, is yourself. There's nobody else telling you that. They might think it, but they're not telling you because they don't know for sure. There's no guarantees that if you put in all of this work, you won't end up being the best. Hey, before we get on with the rest of the video, I'm really trying to hit 10,000 subs by the end of the year. I don't know if that's a reasonable goal or a rational goal, but I'd like to at least try. So if you enjoy this video, please consider subscribing. And thank you so much for watching. There's a few things that kind of spurred this on. One of them being a documentary that I watched yesterday about Arslan Ash on the Red Bull Gaming channel. The documentary itself came out in like 2021. It just flew under my radar until yesterday. And in that documentary, it kind of details his past and how he grew up in Pakistan and everything like that. But one thing that is pretty prevalent throughout the entire thing is just his genuine love for the game and his love for gaming. In a country, in a region that flew under Tekken's radar for so long, until he was the one that established like world dominance, right? He won both EVOs. People just didn't know about this region, and there was no guaranteed money in that region, right? No esports infrastructure, even the network infrastructure they talk about it in the documentary could not handle playing online during COVID. There's a lot of things and a lot of obstacles that he had to face that he overcame by simply loving the game and believing in himself. And the amount of happiness that he brings to that region, how everybody, you know, credits him for getting people sponsored. There's even a part where during COVID, or like whenever they couldn't play offline as much, he rented a space for up-and-coming players, like an apartment where they could come from all over Pakistan and live and boot camp. And this all started from one guy who just believed in himself and had the skills to beat some of Tekken's finest and bring the fruits of his labor back to help his people, you know, the people who want to get better with him. It's a very beautiful story, and it very much reminded me that there's so much more to fighting games than these little ranks that we fight for online and get angry about. Because the thing with COVID and having to play online and everything like that is that it kind of dehumanizes everybody in a sense, because we don't know the guy on the other side of the screen. We just know that he has our points and we want them, or he has something that we want, which is victory. Behind that monitor, there's another person who is trying to hone their skills and trying to get better at this game, and you just forget about it sometimes, I think. And just seeing the story of one man who was able to claim glory for his region was very motivating. And it made me realize that it doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter where you come from, where you are on the globe. As long as you can believe in yourself and unleash those skills that you have, and that skill that you have as a human to learn, you can make it. And me being from the US, and a lot of you guys being from the US, we have a lot of opportunities here that he didn't have in Pakistan. He just made it happen, and that was really cool to see. Let's move on to one more thing that kind of spurred on this video. There's a line in the Sonic Hurricane guide to footsies, if you've read the whole thing. I linked it in a previous video. If you need the link again, just comment below and I'll reply to it. But at the very end, in the epilogue, which I assume some people skipped because it's not a numbered chapter, there's a paragraph that talks about intermediate players being the easiest to beat in footsies. But the last sentence of that paragraph says he doesn't think his footsies are good enough to help him win whole matches. This is referring to taking everything that we've learned in these previous 7 chapters of the guide to footsies, or however you learn how to play footsies, and not implementing all of it. Instead, we implement bits and pieces of it, and we play this weird reactionary game where we stand at a certain range and we just react. We're not really thinking about what they're doing. We think we are. We think we're playing footsies because we're punishing things and stuff like that, but we're not really playing footsies. We're not playing any mind games or anything like that. It's a very surface level game because we're overwhelmed. You know, I just read 7 chapters about playing footsies in a fighting game, and so you feel like there's no way you're gonna remember all of it. You'll never remember all of that, so let me just take bits and pieces of it and try and put it together. I think that's the number one mistake of most intermediate players, is that we feel we're getting somewhere, but instead of really understanding it all in depth and going back and reading it again and again until we actually get it, we just kind of put bits and pieces together that work sometimes. Then we complain that we're inconsistent, even though our game plan itself it's inconsistent. And at that point, you either realize that there's some gaps in your knowledge that you need to fill, or you give up and you say that the game is bad or something, or you tell yourself that you're bad and you'll never get it. Those are kind of the two types of people. One will blame the game and the other one will blame themselves, but in the end, they both come to the same conclusion, that it's time to quit rather than, really put the time in to learn things. And I think that most people want to be the guy who blames themselves, right? Who doesn't blame the game, because it sounds kind of scrubby. But when the outcome is the same, when the outcome leads to you quitting the game, does it really matter? Does it matter if you blame the game or you blame yourself if you are both quitters? To me, it doesn't. But I guess it's kind of a thought experiment for you to think about yourself. Kind of a short video today, but I think that's all I got for you guys. If you enjoyed this one, please consider subscribing, and I'll talk to you again very soon.